Hi everyone, and welcome to the Dental Podcast from Denplan. My name's Tom and I'm your host. Today I'm joined by one of our fabulous trainers, and that's Jane Maylor. Hi Jane, how are you doing today?
I'm all right, thanks Tom. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Today we're going to be covering off this is one of our special spotlight episodes where we sort of pull the curtain back about some of our teams and what we do at the business at Denplan. Jane, I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself and the role that you do.
I joined the company back in 2008, so it's my 13-year anniversary next month. I'm one of the senior client training executives, so I've got a big posh fancy title now. And I've worked for Joe Banks in the academy the whole time that I've been here.
Oh, fabulous. Could you talk us through your role, really, just to sort of just give us a bit of an indication about what you do from a day-to-day basis?
It's really varied, which I like. I've been training for 21 years, and this has been probably the most varied role that I've ever had. There isn't really a day-to-day similarity because every day is different, because all practices are different for starters, and it depends on what we're doing. So it could be that we're doing a tailor-made training session in a practice. It could be that we're doing something online. At the moment, everything's online, but we are going back out into practice, which we're really looking forward to over the next few weeks. So it could be that we have spoken to a practice, they've got something specific in mind. It could be one of the subjects they have to have. It could be something they want to get the team all motivated. It could be we're in a hotel. It might be in the practice. It really does depend on what the practice themselves want.
Oh, amazing. As you were saying, there's a lot of your role involves sort of face-to-face sort of time with people and sort of being present at the same time. Obviously, you know, we're now coming out of lockdown, but how did lockdown change the way that you did things over the last sort of 15 months?
Completely changed how we did things. We weren't in practice at all. We've done everything online. I remember Joe coming into one of our team meetings on Teams at the very start and suggesting that we started doing training online, and we all sat there and looked at her like she'd lost the plot. It was something so far out of our comfort zone. We're not known, some of us, for our technical prowess in the training team, but we've definitely got there over the last 12 months. So everything just stopped face to face. It was great at the very start because practices were furloughed as well. So we were speaking to them an awful lot. We were seeing them in their homes. I've met over the time, I've met people's children. I've met people's in-laws. I've met somebody's postman. I've met pets. And my favourite pet for the whole time really has to have been Phil the pheasant from practices in Oxfordshire. Yeah, Phil the pheasant just quite happily walked across camera and then walked back off camera again. Bit of a cameo role, but that has stayed with me the whole time. So
fantastic.
So it's been great seeing people in their own environments and not necessarily in practice, because obviously with us doing the online training, they could do it from anywhere. And we even had two ladies, they were running late. They were in a queue in Costco.
Oh, really?
And they didn't want to miss the training. So they appeared on a phone in the queue in Costco with all this bedlam going on around them and saying, we didn't want to miss the training, so we're here. So the training really can be done from absolutely anywhere.
Oh,
whether
that's
it's
fabulous.
Home, their practice, or the supermarket.
That's amazing. With the sort of the training that you guys and we at Denplan offer, so what sort of things do these cover, really, just for anyone that might not be aware?
Anything at all, really. We do tailor it to what the practice wants. So we've got the biggest one that we do is safeguarding. So because it's one of the ones that practices have to have. So we do a 3-hour safeguarding session, and that's whether it's online or in practice. And that, as I say, is one of the essential ones. Things like legal and ethics that they might want, complaints, Denplan project knowledge. Obviously, a lot of practices need a bit of a refresher maybe at the moment on the project knowledge. So we've done a lot of that over the last 12 months. But then we can also then move it over to the team side of things, whether it's team communication, whether it's team working, team motivation, things like that.
Oh, brilliant.
But we also do not just a tailor-made training, we do the events. So the moment, for example, we've been doing an induction event for people who have just joined the practice. And that's the one that you came and sat. We've also got things
which is brilliant, might I add, by the way. I had a really great time with it. I'm really
glad you enjoyed it. You were a very well behaved delegate. It almost nearly forgot you were there. But we've got events for things like reception days as well. We've been doing those online, but we do a lot of those face to face. And when we can do, we can't wait to get back for things like that. Practice managers events. So it's events around specific roles in the practice, as well as practice team events.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, obviously you were saying about those sort of being virtually. Is that how, do you think that's how it's going to sort of be in the future? Is it going to be a mix of hybrid, virtual and in person, or are you going to be sort of focusing on going back to one or the other?
No, we're looking very much at the blended learning approach, because we've had some practices who have not looked at the online side of training at all. We've had a lot of practices who really embraced the online. So we can see that there's the need for both. And we've addressed that, and we've wanted to be able to cover that for our practices and for our delegates. So we'll still be doing face-to-face when we go out. We'll still be continuing to do some online training as well. And then we've got the learning management system, the Denplan Academy online, which will be coming out as well. So we're really covering everything that a practice or individual delegates themselves might actually want.
Oh, great.
It's keeping us busy and out of mischief, and it's great for us because we're learning new things as well, so it's keeping everything fresh. Last year has definitely kept everything fresh for us as well. You know, we've learned new things, we've learned new skills, we've learned new things about our practices. Some of our modules have changed around COVID, so yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve for us as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Leads me sort of on to my next question. So what are sort of the big learnings that you sort of picked up over the last year? Do you think that's affected the way that you're going to work ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I would say I've been with the company since 2008, but this last year has been the biggest learning curve, with the exception of the first year of joining the company, I think, that I've had. You know, learning how to do online to start with. We learned how to adapt our modules to make them work for our practices as well.
Yeah.
We learned different things from our practices. They were giving us feedback and saying about how they would like sessions too. We tailored some of our events around what practice managers or reception teams or the Denplan champions, anything like that, what they said they wanted, and we were able to do that and then be able to deliver it in the way they wanted to. Another learning curve was going from Microsoft Teams to Zoom. When we started off with Teams, I say at the start, we did all sit there and just wonder what on earth we were doing, because it was something brand new to all of us within the team. We practiced on each other. We practiced with people we knew. We just started slowly with that and getting practices used to it as well, because it was new for our practices.
Yeah.
You know, when practices first came on, especially when they were in furlough, it was great because they'd come on, they hadn't seen each other for a while. So the first 5 minutes, I would tend to just sit back and let everybody squeal and say hello, and everyone was excited seeing each other. So that was nice. It brought practices back together and helped them stay in touch while they were on furlough. And then we moved to Zoom in April. So changed platforms, and our practices have been great, and they've worked with us, and we're taking that forward now.
Oh, brilliant. And it's so lovely to hear that, you know, obviously how tough it's been over the last sort of 15 months for everybody, but being able to be in a position where you can sort of bring staff back together in that environment, and not just a social environment, but a learning environment as well, because you do think that those are two very different situations that you bond in. So you're going to bond differently down the pub or out on a night out than you are in a training session when people are going to be sort of talking up or helping one another out. So it's lovely that we can be in that position to offer that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we enjoy as well about the face-to-face sessions. You know, yes, there's a lot of learning going on. Obviously, that's what the session's there for. But it's also a chance for the team to be able to spend a bit of time together having a conversation. You know, some practices, when they're really busy, they tell us that they can be in the same building for the day and not necessarily see each other because they might be off in various surgeries, they might be able to get off reception. Whereas on a training day, you know, they close and everyone's sitting together in the waiting room, for example, or we're sitting together in a venue. And the first maybe 15 minutes of that, quite often when they arrive, is catching up with each other because they may not have seen each other. It's in a relaxed environment. So yeah, it's great. It is great. It's very much a team event as well as a learning environment.
Oh, that's so lovely. And that's really good to hear. Like I say, is that the sort of the positive uplift that you can get from COVID and our training as well. So obviously some of the, the training that we have is set in place. So what sort of a range of things that we cover?
We've actually got 50 modules.
50. Wow.
Always great to learn a new one. Yeah, we've got about 50.
That's a lot. I didn't realize we would be at that height.
Yeah, we're busy. And we've done that because not all practices want the same sort of thing. And it is about them. It's our practices. It's their tailor-made day. It's called tailor-made for a reason. We do adapt it for what the practices want. So, for example, we've got a section on communication. So that might be something like telephone tactics. It could be looking at NLP. It could be anything around team communication. Then we've got things like your legal and ethics complaints, the things and safeguarding, the things that they have to have. So it really does depend on what they're looking for. But there is a guide. So if anyone does want the guide, then we can have that sent out. We've got Amber and Jen, who would be our office-based team, but like most people at the moment, based at home, and they put all that together, and that goes out to practices as well, and that is continually being updated. So we look at the modules and we think, okay, so this module people haven't asked for a while, so we'll remove it and we'll replace it with something else if practices have said this would be really good for us to have. So we are constantly looking at updating modules based on the environment, what's happening, what sort of inspections they might be having. So it depends on what they need. And sometimes a practice might say, have you ever thought of this? And it might be something we've never thought of. So we're always open to suggestions.
That's brilliant. So how interactive are the sessions?
The sessions themselves are really interactive, and that's whether they're online or whether they're face-to-face or whether it's an event. We don't feel that anyone should just have to sit and listen to us. We do get the teams involved, and it's great because when we have a practice team event, so when we do a tailor-made event, we've got everybody in there. We've got the receptionists, the nurses, the dentists, the hygienists, the practice managers, any therapists. They're all in there, so everyone's point of view gets taken into consideration. So we will do a lot of work where we might say, okay, so we're going to put you into groups, want you to think about this, and then come back and share that with everybody. Being able to do it online, we've been using breakout rooms recently. That's been interesting. Wow. So we've been using those, and then you just always pray that you can bring everybody back. So we've been using breakout rooms. So we've almost been doing the same sort of thing, but we've been able to do it virtually as well, and that will continue with the sessions that we continue to do virtually as well. So we don't say it's not just about looking at slides and listening to us. We try and look at the NLP way of doing things. So you will have some people who are visual. They like to see slides. That's how they learn. Some people are very auditory, so they like to listen to what's being said. And then you've got your kinesthetic people who just want to get their hands on. They want to have a go. They want to get involved and do an activity. So all of our sessions tend to have a mix of everything, just to make sure everyone's learning styles are covered.
Amazing. In an ideal world, if the world was your oyster and you could do whatever, how the training aspect of it in the future?
If I could have an ideal world, we would all be training on a beach in the Caribbean somewhere. And that would be amazing. However, maybe not quite the world being my oyster. So just for things, going forward, do you mean how I'd like it to
be? How would you like to or how do you see it changing in the future as well?
I think it will be, as I said before, a mix of like the blended learning. It'll be us going back out into practice. We've already had practices contact us saying, we cannot wait for you guys to come back out. So it'll be a mix of everything. And I think the fact that we've now got the online facility, we've got the LMS and the Denplan Academy online coming out as well. I think now we'll be able to cover what every single delegate wants, because there is something for everybody. And I think that going forward is making it really exciting. Us getting involved in the LMS system, and we're constantly adapting our material. As I said earlier, we're taking it from the face-to-face, then modifying it for online training, and then modifying it again to make it work on the learning system. It's exciting for us. I think it's going to be very exciting for our delegates going forward as well, because again, even the stuff that's going to be on the LMS is going to be interactive. They'll be able to answer questions. Again, it's not just going to be sitting flicking through slides. There will be interactive work on there for them as well. So I think going forward, whatever happens, we'll have a go.
Oh, amazing.
last year when we said about, okay, we can't go into practices, we're like, right, okay, so what do we do about it? How do we make it happen? And whatever comes our way, somebody in the team somewhere will think of a creative idea, and we'll make it happen the best we can.
And that's one of the sort of the key messages that I've picked up through speaking to over the last sort of 4 months of speaking to people on a regular basis. How adaptive we've been here at Denplan has been sort of quite humbling to sort of see, because from my day-to-day role, I might not see what you guys would do or what the events team do or other sort of areas of the business, especially like practice marketing as well. But it's really, really, like I say, quite humbling to see how quickly things have sort of changed and how everybody's sort of overcome this. And I just sort of think it's testament to you guys, sort of how amazing that sort of turned out, and seeing the feedback yesterday on the call as well, and seeing how amazing those sessions can be done virtually is so, I don't know, like without sort of sounding too much of a love it makes me quite proud to work for the sort of the organization where we can do this and we can adapt this to help our practices do as much as they can, both from an optional and a legal perspective as well. Yeah,
it is. As you say, it's very proud to work for Denplan and the company that it is a company that went, okay, we are in a pandemic. There is a situation there. The business development consultants, they adapted how they worked. Those guys who were in the office, they went home and were working and have still been able to deliver to our practices. And we've all worked together. I found over the last 12 months, I've worked much more closely with some people I may not have done before. So we're having more conversations. Again, in order to help with the training, the consultants have been fantastic, because obviously they speak to their practices as well, and then they come back to us and say there's a need here with the practices, so we're spending more time talking to the consultants. We've recently been getting the PSAs in as well, the practice support advisors, involved with some of our online events, because practices speak to them, but they just know them by name. So recently they've come on things like champion events and reception events and practice manager events. And it's great when you see the practice going, oh, I speak to you on the phone, and putting a face and a name together. It's been great for the practice support advisors, and it's been great for the practices. And that is something that we want to continue going forward, even after all the COVID stuff's over. It's something that we feel is really important, to bring all those touch points together. So the consultant, anybody they speak to in the office, and us as well, and we're all working together just to make sure practices have got what they want, because practices have conversations with different people. So the more we're working together, the better it'll be for the practice.
Absolutely. And another peek behind the curtains. Coming up, we are going to be having some time with the PSAs on the podcast and some of the BDCs as well. So stay tuned for that. Jane, could you explain the importance of the training and CPD to practices?
Yeah, they have to do a certain amount of hours. So all the dental professionals need to have a certain amount of hours. And this is their continual professional development hours, so their CPD. And that doesn't matter whether they're doing it online, whether they're doing it face-to-face, whether they've been reading something, they need to have those hours, and they're set by the GDC. Now, there's information on the GDC's website. There's also information on our dashboard for practices and their CPD. There's actually a section called My CPD. It'll take you to some information on the GDC, but it will also talk about the CPD we can offer as a practice, as a company, as well. And if you have mislaid your CPD certificate, there's a section there where you can make an inquiry as to being able to get a copy of it as well. So we know it happens sometimes, so we've put that on there just to help with people who may have lost their certificate.
Oh, brilliant. So with the challenges that have sort of come in through lockdown, how have you sort of managed to work remotely with other colleagues?
It's been really good, actually, because there has been, as a team, even we only used to see each other every 6 weeks for a team meeting. I would say we see each other a lot more than that at the moment, with things like Microsoft Teams. We chat a lot more frequently. We have a meeting at least once a week. So we're actually we're updated so much on what's happening, what's going on. Mentioned about people like the business development consultants. We're speaking to them more frequently as well, and they've been having contact obviously with their practices remotely as well, but they're actually back out now. But it's great because we can still speak to them and get the information about the practices and what sort of thing they're looking for from training. So it's a team effort. And then the practice support advisors, we've been working with them a lot more, which has been brilliant because we haven't really as much in the past, but they're now being able to attend some of the online sessions. So they've been attending some of the events, whether it's champions, practice managers, or the receptionists. They've actually been able to attend those events and meet face to face, as it were, the practices that they've spent the time speaking on the phone to for years. And it's now brilliant because they're speaking face to face and actually putting a face and a name together. So that has been really good. And we've even had new starters, Amber in our team, we actually haven't met yet because she joined at the start of lockdown, but she's the one who's been doing a lot of our marketing, so the training brochure, etc. She's been doing all of that, and it feels like we've known her for years, but we haven't actually met yet. So the remote learning has been brilliant, because if she'd been working in the office and us out in the field, it would have been a long time to have met her. But we were able to meet her literally on her first day, and she's been able to build that relationship with us and also the practices as well, to know what they want, as well as the consultants.
Oh, amazing. And I have from experience that I work with Amber on a regular basis, so I know how much of a pro she is. But I just wanted to, sort of thank you for today, really. It kind of wraps it up, like covers off a lot of questions. If anyone has any questions or would like to know a bit more, how would they best sort of get in contact with you and the rest of the team?
They can get in touch with us via, there's information on the website on there as well. And they can contact through their PSA, through their business development consultant, through us. I mean, a lot of the practices that come to us for training have had training with us before. So they contact us sometimes directly, or they might contact Jen and Amber as well. So that can be done that way. Just a little thing as well about on the website, I've just mentioned that you can contact us through there. If anybody has mislaid CPD certificates, for example, because it does happen, they come out an email and sometimes we can move them, or something cannot get to you, you can actually do that under My CPD on the dashboard. So if you go onto the dashboard, the information's on there, you can book your training on there, you can have put an inquiry through on there. We are contactable any way you want to contact us, so do give us a shout.
Fabulous. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast, Jane. And thanks everyone for listening. See you next time.
Thank you.